Chapter 25. The Locks humiliated themselves. Jean quickly walked to George's side. George looked at Jean. George. Alexander's voice grew louder. He was obviously furious. Jean pursed her lips and said, "George, apologize." Alexander paused. At that moment, he did not expect Jean to suddenly compromise. He was prepared for Jean to go against him to protect her son. George bit his lip. "Apologize." Jean looked serious. George felt a little wronged, but at that moment, he still walked in front of Jeremiah obediently and said, "I'm sorry. I don't want an apology. I want to scratch your face." Jeremiah said arrogantly. "Jeremiah," Damien called out to his grandson. "I don't care, I don't care. I just want to scratch his face, I just want to." Jeremiah played a fool, crying and making a scene. "But you also bit me." George seemed to have mustered a lot of courage to say that out loud. "I didn't." Jeremiah denied it. "You said that I embarrassed you, so you bit me. I only pushed you to break free, which was why I accidentally scratched your face." George retorted loudly. "Nonsense. I didn't bite you at all. I didn't." George rolled up his sleeves, revealing a row of teeth marks. Everyone watched. "You bit yourself. It was you." Jeremiah pointed at George's nose and cried. "How could I bite myself? It was you, it was you." Jeremiah said fiercely, looking like he was quibbling. Obviously, no one believed him. Octavia, who was hugging Jeremiah, felt a little embarrassed. At this moment, everyone felt that it was Jeremiah who bit George first before George resisted. On the other hand, Jeremiah was the one who complained first. Jeremiah. Damien's expression also changed. Originally, Jeremiah was going to attend another banquet with his parents today. They only let him come here just to show off. In the end, not only did he not show off, but he also embarrassed them. "Grandpa, George is lying. I really didn't bite him." "Enough." Damien was enraged. Octavia also said sternly in a low voice, "Jeremiah, stop talking. Why don't you believe me?" Jeremiah burst into tears again. At that moment, he even broke free from Octavia's embrace and rolled on the ground. "That illegitimate child, George, has been lying all along. He has been lying all along." "Jeremiah, shut up." Damien looked grimmer. He did not expect his grandson to be so uneducated today. It was simply too embarrassing. "I'm not an illegitimate child," George suddenly said as he was aggrieved. "You are. Only an illegitimate child wouldn't have a father. My grandmother said that your mother only gave birth to you because she was fooling around with some man. Now that your mother is going to marry my second uncle will suffer a huge loss." Octavia suddenly covered her grandson's mouth. She did not expect her grandson to remember what she said about Jean at home. "Jeremiah." Damien was infuriated at that moment. At that moment, Octavia hurriedly picked up Jeremiah, who was on the ground, and explained to the others, "This child doesn't know anything and spoke nonsense. We spoiled him too much. I'll bring him back now and teach him a good lesson." Damien's face turned red with anger. Octavia quickly carried Jeremiah, who was still throwing a tantrum, and left. She was afraid that he would say something else, causing the Locks to be completely humiliated. Once they left, the corridor became quiet. Damien immediately smiled apologetically. "Well, my grandson might have been too spoiled indeed. George, I'll apologize to you on his behalf." "It's okay." George appeared to be very polite. It was a stark contrast to Jeremiah's arrogance just now. He said, "In the future, once my mom marries Uncle Wu, Jeremiah and I will be brothers. I'll get along well with him." "You're so well behaved." Damien's acting was on point. "I'll ask Jeremiah to apologize to you properly later." George smiled obediently. The others were also touched by George's obedience. They felt that he was too sensible. Compared to Jeremiah, who only knew how to behave atrociously, they were like heaven and earth. Alexander also tried to mediate the situation. "Isn't it normal for children to quarrel? If there's no discord, there's no concord." "Yes, we'll be brothers from now on," Damien instantly said. Alexander called for everyone to leave. Fourth Master Swan stood not far away and watched the whole process. He turned around and left. When he left, there was an obvious smile at the corner of his mouth. Teddy had goosebumps all over his body. "Are you leaving?" Teddy could not help but ask. "Dinner is about to start, and yet he's leaving." Fourth Master Swan nodded. At this moment, Knox also left with him out of habit. Knox was 4 years younger than Fourth Master Swan and had been growing up with him. Knox's grandfather, Will Winter, was once the adjutant of Edward's father, Zachary Swan. Zachary was once a general of Harkin. Later on, due to the change in state power, he abandoned politics and went into business. Will naturally followed Zachary in business, and he vowed to help the Swans manage their business for generations. As such, Knox was taught from a young age to be loyal to the Swans. In Knox's understanding, he was born to be a member of the Swans and would die a ghost of theirs. Now that the head of the Swans was Edward, Knox worked for him. In the quiet car, Knox could not help but say, "That little brat isn't simple." Fourth Master Swan's eyes moved. Teddy sat in the passenger seat. He turned his head and asked, "Young Master Winter, are you talking about eldest young Lady Lawrence's son? If not, he's pretty good to be able to play such a good tune at such a young age." Teddy agreed. Teddy was an orphan adopted by the Swans. He was only responsible for taking care of Fourth Master Swan's daily life. He had not received any special education from the Swans, so he was relatively simple-minded. Knox smiled faintly. He was not talking about George's piano skills. That said, I'm a little puzzled. Eldest young Lady Lawrence is so good-looking. Why is her son so ordinary? Teddy muttered, "I'm sure her son is like his father. His father probably isn't good-looking. What a pity for eldest young Lady Lawrence's good genes." Knox could not help but laugh. He smiled as he looked at the man whose expression was clearly unsightly. "Teddy." Fourth Master Swan's voice was a little cold. "Fourth Master." Teddy appeared very respectful. "You haven't exercised for a long time, right?" Fourth Master Swan asked. Knox was stunned. "Stop the car," Fourth Master Swan said to the driver. The driver immediately pulled over. "Get out of the car," Fourth Master Swan ordered. "Me?" Teddy pointed at himself. "Leave your cell phone and wallet here." Fourth Master Swan sneered. Quote. Teddy wanted to cry but had no tears. How did he offend his master? Visit and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly.